The Tesla solar roof. Maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've heard it described as unobtainium or vaporware. But, alas, I'm up here today on this very slippery roof to give my 1-year review. So at the beginning of the pandemic, our insurance company told us that we needed to replace our leaky old asphalt roof, and that they were willing to give us about $12,000 towards that end. So we went on Tesla's website, typed in the address, put in how much we spent per month on electricity, and their computer system took satellite images and shot us out a quote and estimate. At first, they had 11 kilowatts of solar on our east-west facing roof with 3 Powerwall 2s in our garage, totaling 40 kilowatt hours worth of battery storage. Now, the price at the time seemed absurdly low, with the 26% federal tax credit and the local incentives, plus what we were getting from insurance. It came out to under $30,000. But over the course of the next year that we waited before we had permission to install, that price would change. In fact, we were caught up in that group of Powerwall customers and solar customers that had their quotes raised. And we did decide to go along with that, but all of that worked out in the end, and we'll get into it here in a minute. I will say that the reason it seemed like there was such complications and troubles and why we had to wait so long was less on Tesla and more on our utility company and our building department, which had all but shut down during the pandemic and stopped really issuing new building permits, while at the same time our utility didn't want to give us permission to attach so much solar to the grid that we had requested. And we actually had to spend a whole year running up our electric usage so that we could install enough solar, which really should have more to do with square footage when there's a product like this. But some of those rules will just have to change over time. And unfortunately, I think that's a big reason why you're seeing people online maybe saying they can't get Tesla solar or that they had their order canceled. It just comes down to the jurisdictions you're in and whether or not those cities or regions are a viable place for Tesla to do business. We were fortunate enough that they were, although it took a lot of me calling them on the phone and pestering people to get it to move along. But ultimately it worked out, albeit at a different price. So after waiting for an entire year, we finally had our install scheduled. And I have to say, the biggest con of the entire Tesla solar roof system and process is the amount of attention you will get from passerbys. As soon as they filled our entire driveway up with materials, big crates with Tesla logos, we started having people turn their necks and heads and look a little bit harder at what was going on. We started getting people stopping and waiting for us to go out and check the mail or bring in our groceries. We would get people pulling over and taking pictures of the house, etc. And that hasn't stopped for the last year. That's something to be aware of. I don't particularly love it. I just have to know. I tell myself they're just taking pictures of the roof because they might want one or something. And I try not to put too much into the paranoia, but it should be said. Now, Tesla came in full force with a crew of 15 guys. They were very diligent, hardworking. They really prioritized safety and would take breaks for things like bee stings, or if there was a drop of rain, they would all get off of the roof because apparently it's slippery when wet. And as soon as they pulled off the old roof, they found some damage, some water damage on the decking. The quote went up a little bit. They fixed it pretty promptly. A very painless procedure, though. I mean, generally, you were just hanging out inside the house Well, it sounded like you had an army of squirrels up top just working away. But it was cool to see, and they were all very nice guys willing to talk to you about it. So, as to the process, they put down this underlayment that was a adhesive on the bottom and a neoprene kind of shark skin on the top. That's waterproof. That acts as a roof in and of itself, right? But then they took some clips about this long, these plastic clips, and screwed them through that underlayment into the joists, and then they would clip in varying lengths of these ceramic tiles, some of which have solar, maybe even most of which, but a lot of them do not. And because of that, they left me with some sample pieces of different lengths, and you can see that they have a metal bracket on the bottom, and they just clip them into here, and they stagger them in a way that the water runs off and onto the one below. And in between the seams, there are these clips, which also have a channel for water. It is a pretty cool design that has added benefits. For example, it hovers about that much off of the roof plane itself. So you get this air gap that maybe acts as a kind of insulation, but I think that it does have benefits, not actually getting the roof itself rained on very much. Although, having had some storms and stuff, we wouldn't be concerned about it. The other thing to note is that the Powerwall crew was a different set of guys that did have some overlap, but they weren't there working on the Powerwalls the whole time. I had cleared out the garage, for example, so that they could, but it turns out they didn't come until the second week or so, and they were the ones who showed you how to use the app, and at the end of everything, they were the ones who left you waiting for PTO, or permission to operate. Okay, now before we get into PTO, we need to jump into some charts and give some context by looking back before we can look a little bit less back. And I have to say, I got obsessed with the Tesla app. That is a thing that brings many charts into your life. We got permission to operate in the late summer, and immediately I started experimenting with every appliance in the house, turning things off and on to see how much energy they used versus how much we generated. And as much as I was splitting hairs, looking at cost savings mode versus self-powered mode, and changing our time of use settings in the app, etc., there's only so much you can control. And it turns out that is all about consumption rather than generation. You don't control how much the sun shines on your house. Now, let's hop into the charts, shall we? So here we have 3 years of energy consumption. We have 1 year of gas heated house, which used about 30,000 kilowatt hours of energy. We have a red line representing that gas usage, a green line doing the electricity, and a fuchsia line representing our net energy, or the combination thereof. Then we switched to electric heat pumps, and that saved a lot of net energy by reducing our gas and increasing our electric. Then, after using about 24,000 kilowatts that year, we got permission to operate on the solar. And we immediately went net negative energy, even including gas. But what I learned, and what made me stop checking the app as frequently through the winter, was that the sun is what heats the earth. Winter, there's less sun, there's less solar, but you need more energy to heat the home. So we went from producing about 1,000 kilowatt hours down to producing around 400 kilowatt hours in the winter. Still drastically reducing our total consumption, but less motivation to check the app. Now, the sun came out, days got longer, and as you can see, we went up to about 1,400 kilowatt hours being produced in the plateau of summer. And we went negative for, still are, those several months. In fact, I think we could go off grid from about halfway through March to just about October. And that's saying something. The other thing is that this is about 5,200 kilowatt hours of energy net for this year. But more than half of that, about 60% of it, is the gas from just our tankless hot water heater. If you were to exclude the gas, we have used about 14,000 kilowatt hours while producing about 12,000 kilowatt hours, or a little over 12,000 kilowatt hours. So we have a net electric usage of under 2,000 kilowatt hours, which is about what we would use in 1 month of winter, all things considered. So tankless gas hot water heater. Now, the other relevant chart is our monthly electricity cost. Only electric energy, no fees, nothing else. In the house that was heated by gas, we used $62 a month on average of electricity. When we switched to a heat pump, that went up to $147 per month on average. Since switching to solar and battery, we are now down at $8.50 per month on average, or $102 for the entire year's energy cost of electricity. That being said, the first month that we got permission, which is under this giant hand, still cost us $19 in electricity. Now, from what I can infer, that's because there's a difference in the billing period and the production period. And when we sub that September with this coming September, it should be a negative number. And we'll actually go even lower. We'll have a yearly cost of electricity around $55 for the entire year, or under $5 per month total. The roof hasn't leaked at all. It has been producing electricity regardless of the time of year, but with some variances in the season. And it has covered 85% of our electric usage over the last year, which is a huge improvement. Now let's talk about the whole cost and some final thoughts. Okay, so here we are in the garage next to the 3 Powerwalls and the 2 inverters. I want to go ahead and take care of the talk of the cost. I mentioned earlier that Tesla raised the price on everybody, but we went along with install anyway. Well, I'm glad we did, because had we not, we might have never got an install date. And they ended up comping and reducing and going back on all of that. So they honored the original price minus the difference of the construction cost they had to do, as well as we ended up with 14 kilowatts of solar. So 3 more kilowatts, which they took out or added to that when they gave us a check back. So all things considered, the end cost was $32,500 for everything. And that sounds like a lot, especially when I get asked a lot about return on investment. Well, we were getting quotes for about $15,000, $16,000 for an asphalt roof. And I think it's fair to reduce that from the cost of the system when you're talking about return on investment for the solar and batteries. When that's done, we see that it costs about $16,500, let's say. And last year we spent $1,765 on electricity. This year we're looking at spending around $50 to $100. So $1,600 per year saved, let's say, over the course of however many years. I think energy costs will go up, but that puts us at under 10 years return on investment for the electric components. Now, The other question, how long do you think the roof will last? Will it degrade? How long will the batteries degrade? Well, right off camera, we have an OG baby blue Nissan Leaf. I think it used a lot less advanced batteries, and they haven't really degraded so much. I'm not worried about it. As to the durability of these shingles, we have another one right here. As you can see, this one's different than the other one I showed you. And there are videos online of these being hit with hail in Texas. I'd recommend you looking those up, but I'm not worried about it. Really at all. We have had hail. It didn't do anything. I suspect that these shingles will be the sort of thing that will outlast the roof and will be found by archaeologists. Next frequently asked question, how long do these batteries hold energy? They're always charging, they're always discharging, unless you put them in a special storm watch mode where they're waiting until the power goes out, which actually is kind of automatic, but I have it turned off. In the winter, we might use 90 kilowatt hours in a day to heat the house. In the summer, we might use 25, 30. It depends on if we do laundry, which might take 8 kilowatt hours to dry a load of laundry. These hold 40 kilowatt hours. That is enough to get us through the worst parts of the day, and it is enough to get us through a whole day or two in the best time of year. But in the worst of winter, if the power were to go out, which it really has not for us, they wouldn't last super long. I'm not really concerned about it. We've only had, I think, 2 power outages the entire time we've had the system installed, and it was for a few hours. We did not even notice. None of the clocks needed to be reset or anything like that. I think that pretty much covers the frequently asked questions. I mean, by far the most asked question is the return on investment, which is a hard one, right? If we were worried about return on investment, we would have continued to use that subsidized gas. But this whole system is really set it and forget it. It's been fantastic. I think that is going to conclude my 1-year review. If you guys have any questions, please drop them below in the comments, and hopefully another viewer will answer before I can. Either way, guys, thank you very much.